I'd like to build the world a house, furnish it with love, by apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I don't remember the rest. I mean, except for the part of I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
Mm-hmm. All
And
right.
I, that wasn't even if everything's even going okay. I'm a little bit concerned about my connection tonight. I worked so hard hoping I can get an Ethernet connection, and I don't have it yet. But maybe works are in progress. We'll see. But welcome to Julia Pop yet again. And of course, it's highly appropriate that Julia Pop would talk about pop, right? So that is going to be our theme. So, Evan, I also just realized that I left my little cheat sheet down the hall. So if you want to say
That is
hi to,
why I'm
so
here.
so no, you need to say hi to
Oh
everybody
no.
while I go
Oh,
find the cheat
right,
sheet
because that is
and show them
way
what you're
easier
and show
than
them what you're
telling
drinking.
me to tell.
Show them what you're drinking.
Oh yeah. All right. What am I drinking?
And hilariously, in the time that it took me to
Always, always. If it's my first choice. Always Dr.
Dr.
Pepper.
Pepper is the choice. So you're saying that you're a pepper.
I'm a pepper.
Very good.
Oh.
Very good. So, and all right. So I'm back. It didn't take as long as I had thought it was going to.
Right.
So again, like I said,
Professional.
welcome. I know, right? Again, like I said, the things lock up on this poor thing, and I promise you, I'm going to try to get that lag better. I just a, ran out of time, and B, ran out of an IT person to help me with exactly that. So I might be ordering a little bit because the thing is, well, hello, Ramon wants to say hi to. If you hear a cat meowing, it's Ramon. He's a rock and roll cat, not a pop cat, but yeah. So of course, as I mentioned already, Soda Pop is the theme. So those of you that are watching, thank you. Those of you that are watching later after it's live, also please chime in on whatever you would like to chat with me, and I will be happy to respond. So, as I said,
I'll try and speak in lag.
yes. And so the thing, but the other, now you're going to confuse them. But as we've had before, welcome our guest, of course, Evan, a soda drinker extraordinaire, has decided to join us as well. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. It's nice. I discovered it's nice to have a peanut gallery. So although I can get by doing it on my own, but it's nice to have a little bit of assistance in there.
Recording my
Yeah.
sounds tonight for you.
Oh, good. Very good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have noticed something about the Julia Pop Facebook feed. Uh, what I've what I'm describing it as now is a collage because basically what's happening is after 30 days, Facebook deletes the live streams that you have posted up. I save all of the videos so that I can repost them, but unfortunately, I lose the comments, I lose the engagement. And so the videos will remain on there whenever there is a comment made. I try to make sure that I engage with those of you that are here, and I want to say thank you because that helps my engagement as well. But like I said, in doing that, things don't go in an orderly fashion. It's not like just all the hot topic in one spot, all the TV shows in one spot, all the soda in one spot. So and Stephen Edward Hendricks, welcome. And he says, "How rude of Facebook." And yes, I am laughing out loud with you. So indeed, it is a little bit tricky, but we'll navigate it. And I'm just trying to make a page that will be fun for you and create a live stream that you guys will have fun interacting with. And so, with that in mind, just to let you know, my Facebook feed is just going to look like a collage. So maybe in a couple of weeks, I will tell another hot topic story. Maybe in a couple more weeks, I'll be like, hey, remember that TV theme that we talked about? And repost it. So, as you saw earlier today, I had an entire set of soda commercials that stood out to me. If you have other commercials that stand out to you, I'd love to talk about those as well. And so please do keep that in mind. And so, since this whole place is a collage and it's not exactly the same. And of course, Stephen Edward Hendricks says, Baron Otto approves. I feel very approved by royalty. Thank you, Baron Otto, as I bow gracefully to you. And and I will have to introduce you to Baron Otto. He is our, are you from the Holy Roman Empire, I guess? Some Germanic something or other, whatever exists in 1533. And so,
Favorite
yeah.
years,
Is,
numbers.
is 1533 your
Mix them
favorite?
up.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you should
One
talk to
five three
you,
three.
you should talk to Roddy about that. I think he'll have a lot to say about that particular year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so and I, as another side note, I do want to let you know if you know me, you know I'm crazy about Muppets. The Muppet Show has a little bit of a reboot tomorrow, so we'll see what happens with that. I know. So I know what you're watching tomorrow if you're here at the house. So yes. So Stephen Edward Hendricks Bernardo says yes. And then I will at the end of this video announce what next week's theme is going to be. So, but until then, let's talk about soda pop. So, soda pop had its origins in pharmacies. It was often taken as a medicinal cure. Oftentimes, it was for upset stomachs, so the carbonated bubble beverage would help with indigestion, that kind of thing. And of course, it has its origin in the pharmacy where they're mixing up all different kinds of things, all kinds of roots and cola nuts, all those different kind of things. They're mixing them up, thinking of them as medicinal when really it was just a pleasant, sugary thing to drink. So, of course, it is considered a soft drink. Hard drinks would be considered alcohol, so soft drink, and is non-alcoholic. Now, this came in really handy when the temperance movement decided that they were going to, push prohibition. So once prohibition happened from 1920 to 1933, suddenly the soda fountain became a very popular place for people to socialize. So instead of being around alcohol, they were now being around those sugary carbonated beverages that a soda jerk behind the fountain would mix together and put in front of you. And so then, of course, once the alcohol industry did come back, soda fountains still stayed pretty popular, but mostly it was for the underage crowd. Now, a lot of people think that Coca-Cola was the first. It was not. It was probably the third of the big beverages to be invented, created, poured together. The first one was actually root beer, and it was specifically Hires root beer. Now, Hires root beer, maybe you can still find it around. It is because basically what happens, everything turned into a giant conglomeration. So Keurig Dr. Pepper owns Hires root beer, and Hires is one of the oldest sodas that's out there. So it was created by Charles Hires in 1876 in Philadelphia. And they actually had it at the 100-year exhibition because that was 100 years after the start of the United States. How American a beverage can you get? And it was based on a root tea that he had in the South, and he enjoyed it. And so he originally made it as little packets. So you know how we make Kool-Aid out of the powdery stuff? He was sending packets of those to people to make their own root tea, and they decided to call it something a little bit more with a little more swagger, so they called it root beer. There's no beer in it. Although, a funny side note, when the temperance movement was happening, they were recommending against root beer. They said root beer was bad. It would get you drunk. You could get drunk on root beer. And so Charles Hires. Oh yeah. But Charles Hires took it on himself to have it tested and to then have advertising come out saying that it was not alcoholic at all. So, Pamela, it's wonderful to see you again. One of my classmates said, sorry I'm late. That's perfectly fine. You're just getting in on the very beginning of it. So,
I just had a real quick memory.
Sure,
my mother, I remember when I was younger, we took a special trip to somewhere that was selling Heinz root beer.
Hires root beer?
Hires
root beer.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was like, I remember hearing that whole story about A&W and Hires and all that from her. And it's so vague. I was probably like a toddler.
Oh, probably. Absolutely. So, yeah. And that's the thing is like, and that's the thing is that certain drinks, certain pop culture things bring back nostalgia, bring back a memory. Sometimes it's not a good one, but sometimes it is a good one like that. So I like that a lot. So Steven says, didn't the original root beer have saffron, which turned out to be cancerous? There were versions of root beer made that had saffron in it. I don't believe the Hires version had saffron in it, but yes, there were certain things, and we'll get to those over time, ingredients that they were throwing in that, and the thing is, oh yeah, wouldn't it be terrible to die from your favorite drink? I mean, alcoholics do that quite a bit, but we're not going to go dark. So, but yeah, and so Mr. Hires was actually responsible for some of the earliest dispensers because at the soda fountains he was sending the powder to mix it up, and he walked into a random store and wasn't happy with it. So he's like, all right, I'm going to get a dispenser that has the right amount of, and he was making it as a syrup at that point, syrup with carbonation, exactly how I want it. And so if you see or if you find an old Hires root beer dispenser, it's a pretty big deal and it's really expensive. So of course Stephen knows a little bit about root beer because it's one of his favorites. So thank you for sharing that as well. Now, the next one, the second big root beer. Yeah. So, and I'm telling you, people, well, and that's the other thing. Some people like the kind of sweeter root beers. I'm a fan of the sweeter root beers. Some people like more of the bite root beer. So like Barks has bite. I don't really like Barks, but I love A&W and I love Frosty root beer. And so those are the root beers
My
that
son
I
goes
like.
for A&W over
Yeah.
Barks too.
What
Yeah.
about you? Do you have one you like?
Oh, A&W for sure.
A&W is the winner.
Barks
So
is
yeah.
too much
Mhm.
bite for me.
It's too much bite. Okay, gotcha. So, and then of course, Roddy likes to drink Dad's root beer because it's Dad's root beer, right? So, but he also likes Barks because it does have bite, and he's a very bitey kind of person. So, the second drink to come out was not Coca-Cola either. It was Dr. Pepper, Mr. 23 flavors, of course. And so that was created in 1885 in Waco, Texas, by another Charles. This was Charles Alderton, and in the 23 flavors was very secret. As you can see, they still sell things that have the 23 on them, right? So and so because that was a very secretive thing. Um, whatever it is. Well, again, back, yeah, but back when I was, but when we were but no, but when we were taste testing all the different parts of chai,
Yeah.
that was
Right.
7, 8 ingredients alone. So who knows how many different kinds of spices and those kind of things.
Divine
And
intervention as far as
and
I'm
of course,
concerned.
Pamela being the same age as me, first thing she said, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? So you're a pepper. I'm a pepper. I think Pam's a pepper because she knows those lyrics as well. So, and as I mentioned before, I do have on the page a video collection from YouTube. So I curated a little collection. You'll enjoy it. You'll recognize lyrics exactly like that. And so, interesting thing about Dr. Pepper, it didn't used to have caffeine in it, and it didn't get caffeine added until 1917 when they noticed how caffeine in Coca-Cola, and by that point Pepsi, was something people wanted. They wanted that extra energy. And so Dr. Pepper originally didn't have caffeine added. So I'd like to think that caffeine-free Dr. Pepper probably tastes the way the old Dr. Pepper did. I mean, minus the whatever else they were putting in it. So, and now Dr. Pepper is under the same umbrella as the giant company it's under is called Keurig Dr. Pepper, and it's worth $37.05 billion, and it only comes in third as far as the big three are concerned.
Telling me that there's 23 different new flavors in
No, people say 23 flavors and they think, oh, cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper, cherry. No. There's 23 different ingredients
Right.
in the Dr. Pepper
Like
itself.
32 flavors of Baskin Robbins, and they're still doing.
And
some
they're
repeats.
separate flavors, and sometimes you mix them up. No, but I get it. So, but no, that is not how it goes. So Steven said, so would that make it had 22 flavors before caffeine? Maybe.
Right.
Maybe that is the case. I'm not so sure.
Maybe
So
23 was just like fine.
right.
That's
No.
what
So
it's like.
next in line is the major, massive, big juggernaut, which is Coca-Cola. It is a $321.76 billion company, the number one company. It beats out Pepsi, and we'll talk about how much and why. This was created not by a fellow named Charles, but a fellow named John Pemberton in 1886, so they missed by a year. So Dr. Pepper was in Texas making their thing. Coca-Cola was in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where the Coke Museum is, which is where a lot of different people put Coca-Cola and Atlanta together because it's everywhere when you're there. And so Crystal said that's why you can get it with those who serve Coke or Pepsi products. So they are kind of on their own. And so that's been an interesting thing. When I started looking at which companies had what, I discovered that certain properties actually are sold by Coke in certain places and sold by Pepsi in other places. So in the United States, so I tried to stay focused in the things that were in the States, but there are other items that were sold outside of the States by a different company. So it's very different. It's very unusual. So, all right. So now you'll notice right now that I'm wearing How About a Nice Hawaiian Punch. Hang on. I've got a little thing here that tells me where Hawaiian Punch is from. Hawaiian Punch is also Keurig Dr. Pepper, and we just got finished talking about them. So, if you maybe you don't notice, I don't know, but I have some different like layers on. It just so happens I have 5 different soda shirts, and I'm wearing them all right now. So I am. So enjoy the Hawaiian Punch. And of course, Crystal understood this because she was in the restaurant industry, and so when people would ask for a specific kind of soda, she knew exactly what we were talking about. All right,
And
so
Julie
take
would
2.
have to go to the shirt.
Yes. That's right. So, all right. So, shirt one down. Well, now about we've got our nice Hawaiian punch. So now we're talking about Coke. It's very, very, very Americana, right? So, so from John Pemberton's recipe came Coca Cola. And yes, in the early days, it did have a bit of cocaine in it. They got rid of it really quickly because right around that time was the FDA was fine. The FDA finally got it together and said, no, you can't put that in there. And so they got better at it. So, but from there, the two big names in Coca Cola history are Asa Candler and Woodruff. Candler and Woodruff were the two main CEOs, and they marketed some of the earliest ads were on brick walls. They'd paint a brick wall on the side of a building. And it's like, oh, hey, your side of your building looks like it's kind of worn down. Can we paint our logo on it, make it look all pretty? And that's why to this day you still see old brick that sometimes still has elements of that paint all over. Yeah, so that's one of the earliest forms of kind of billboard marketing in the States that you would ever see. And so they were doing ads from the very start. And so for a while, in the early 1900s, it was the Gibson lady, the ladies that looked like Gibsons. So I grabbed a lady. Hopefully she isn't going to glare too much at me. So, but you can kind of get an idea. She's very much that kind of Gibson girl look. And so a pretty lady would help you sell what you needed to sell. So some early models, even though we weren't quite in photography at that point. Now, a lot of people understand that Santa in red, as we know him, the cold, jolly old elf, somewhat came from Coca-Cola, making sure that that imagery was out there. Now, there were other times when Santa was dressed in red and a jolly old elf, and of course, A Visit from St. Nick being the poem, the book that we always read our kids, right? So, but Coca-Cola was a big part of showing you the picture of that. And Crystal said, we have those advertisements in downtown Denver still on the old buildings to this day. Hundreds of years later, they're still there. And so in 1941 was the beginning of Coca-Cola being called Coke as the nickname. And then in 1971, one of the biggest ad campaigns ever that we still sing, whether you were born by then or not, that I started singing at the beginning of this show. I'd like to teach the world to sing. And if you are a fan of Mad Men, you understand the importance of that song to really wrap things up in that entire storyline. Oh, we're going to have a whole episode of it, and we're going to train you up, sir. We're going to have a Mad Men episode. It's not next week, but we're going to have one. Oh, 100%. Because, again, why would I love Mad Men? It is everything pop culture. It goes from 1960 to 1970. It covers all of the pop culture things that happened during that time, and it's through that funhouse mirror of advertising. Because I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Advertising is intriguing to me because it is a mirror on society, but not any old mirror. It is a fun house mirror. It mushes things up and makes things what you wish they could be. It makes things what the advertiser wishes it could be, which is why I call it a mirror on the world, but it's a fun house mirror on the world. And that's why I'm intrigued by it. I love advertising. I have advertising all over the place. So, and then Steven, good. Steven said, miss the old. Oh, and that is another one that I'm going to mention as soon as we start talking about Pepsi. Yes. So miss the old, is this Pepsi or Coke taste test that would be sitting outside the grocery stores. My mother took part in that. Uh-oh. Okay. I hope I can figure out where this thing is. Oh, boy. I don't know if I remember where it is. I put it up. No, but there is a button. I'll have to do a picture of it later. But there is a button that you did after you took the Pepsi challenge that said, I took the Pepsi challenge. And it was just a cute little plastic button that actually it was little tin button that you could put on saying that you took it. So my mother took the challenge, and of course she'd take a sip and let me have the rest. And I was like, yeah, I can tell the difference. So yes, as a person who loves soda as much as I do, I can tell the difference between a lot of different sodas. I can tell my Dr. Pepper from my Coke, from my Pepsi, from my RC. Others are a little bit trickier. But yeah, so Steven said, also, did you know that on the old vending machines, there were hidden images within the bubbles on the front of the machine? I did not know that. That's fun. I'm not sure. I want to hear more. And he said, sorry, old vending machines. And so I did not know that there were hidden images on the little bubbles. I had no, right? These are the things that you learn. I'm here to learn something new every day. So as Stephen mentioned, so he, one of the big things was Pepsi was like, we taste better than them. Let's do taste testing. So they did the Pepsi challenge, and that was in the 70s into the 80s, and it ended up really getting a lot of market share to Pepsi. So much so that Coke started to panic and made new Coke. They changed for the first time in 100 plus years, in almost 100, it was what, 99 years? 100 years that they did New Coke. New Coke lasted exactly 79 days. That's how much of a debacle it was. It is a very well known, oh my gosh, it was a very well known botch. And so a lot of people know that particular botch. To the history of time, people know it.
One, it's probably worth something.
Oh, for sure. And they have occasionally, just as a little one off, brought back, oh, the new Coke taste if you want to do that. Of course, if you watch Stranger Things, yet another pop culture smorgasbord, you see that they do have some New Coke because that falls in the 1985 era when New Coke was a big deal. And so
79 days when it was
exactly. And so Pamela said, I remember that at Thriftway. Yes, that is exactly where the taste testing happened here in Odessa. We had a couple of different small grocery stores, but the one most of us went to was Thriftway, and they had it right out front where people were taking the Pepsi challenge. And like I said, I knew Pepsi, and yeah, you know, I knew it already by then. Crystal said Dr. Pepper has larger carbonation bubbles than most. Ever noticed that? And that's the cool thing about
I feel like
not only the way they carbonate it, how much carbonation they put in, and it also affects. But it's also how much, because the thing is when you have too much weight, too much caramel color, too much sugar, whatever, it affects the bubbles too. So yeah, I think that you're right.
One of those 23 flavors
Mhm.
is something
Causing the bubbles to be bigger. I think so. I think you're right. So, with that in mind, I know we're talking about Dr. Pepper right now, but we're going to skip ahead to Pepsi because we were already talking about them and how Coke versus Pepsi, the Cola Wars. They've been going longer than you think. They got really big in the 80s into the 90s with all of the advertising. And so, it's really fun. All of us consumers won because we got some really great advertisements out of it, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. So, Pepsi Cola is a $210 billion industry. So it still comes in second to Coca-Cola, but part of the reason they made all that money is they're also in restaurants and they are also in snacks. So what snacks were you just eating? Were you eating Tostitos?
Yeah.
Tostitos is a Pepsi company, a PepsiCo company. Yeah. So invented by Caitlin Bradham in 1893 in North Carolina. It was 5 years they called it Brad's Drink. And then they changed the name to Pepsi Cola. They wanted something peppy, so they named it Pepsi Cola in 1898. Now, no, Brad, no, it just didn't take off, did it? So, but the thing is, another thing with marketing, this particular company, and they have changed the recipes here and there now and then. Now, Coca-Cola did actually go from cane sugar to corn syrup, like almost all of them have done. But Pepsi was not afraid to change up their flavor a little bit just to kind of keep up with times, just to kind of keep that sweetness. So they also had a marketing campaign where they, instead of Coca-Cola's 8-ounce bottles for 5 cents, they were selling 12-ounce bottles for 5 cents. More bounce to the ounce was one of their sayings, and so you're buying more, you're paying more. Oh, who knows? But the thing is they were all about that value, and so a lot of times people would pick Pepsi because it was cheaper and you got more. So, and then we've already mentioned and then we've already mentioned the Pepsi challenge. We've already mentioned the switch to New Coke and how 79 days later they rolled out Coca-Cola Classic, and now it still says Classic on those, doesn't it? So, my next one that I want to make sure I cover before we get into even more, 7-Up. 7-Up was originally its own company. It is now, yet again, under Keurig Dr. Pepper. That $37 billion that they make is with the 7-Up portion. And it is, like I said, it's, let's see what I wrote there. Oh, yes. So it is Keurig Dr. Pepper. But an interesting thing is occasionally 7-Up is distributed by Pepsi bottlers outside of the States. So Clive, hey, welcome. It's good to see you. He said the Pepsi Coca-Cola war has Watergate levels of drama and FBI stings. He's right. He's 100% right. Things got dangerous. Like they're trying to steal formulas that have been secret. We talked about secret formulas. It was crazy. And it still occasionally is. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be, but you're absolutely right. It was crazy stuff.
Krabby Patty formula.
100%. Yes, it was exactly that the episodes of SpongeBob when Plankton is trying to get that. 100%. So Seven Up was invented in 1928 by another Charles. Why are they all named Charles? Charles Griggs, and this was in St. Louis. I didn't realize that until I started studying up. Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
counting
Okay.
Charles right
And
now.
so the fun thing, I think we're up to 3 Charles that have invented different sodas of the 4 that we've talked about. And so this one, it's funny because people thought that the original name, it was kind of put out that it was called, let's see if I can do this without tongue twisting it, Bib Label Lithiated Lemon Lime Soda. Good for me. I made it all the way through.
You totally
I
awesome.
there's an actor in me yet.
But where does it say Liffy?
Lithiated, yes. And what that
I
means.
did not know this.
Lithium was originally in 7 Up. It was. Again, it's that same thing when people don't talk. People always say, oh, Coca-Cola had Coke in it. Yeah. Yes, it did. Oh, and I almost forgot. I think it's time for me to switch my shirt again. Hang on. I've got it. And not only that, I've got a 7 Up shirt, and it is Cool Spot, one of my favorite mascots. We'll do an entire mascot show as well. So, Crystal's lithium. Yes, lithium was in it. It would mellow you out.
And they messed with the formula.
And then the FDA came and said, no, you can't put that in there anymore. And so they changed it. Yeah. Oh, no. And they would call it lithiated even after it had no lithium in it. And they're like, yeah, you can't do that either. And so they finally got rid of it. So, and of course, like I said, they had a really cool mascot, as Mr. Cool Spot himself. And then, of course, crisp and clean, no caffeine. Never had it, never will. We were watching some of those ads. And so, of course, that Caribbean fellow who always would sell 7 Up to you, Jeffrey Holder.
I mean, that guy was crisp.
Right? He was crisp and clean with no caffeine. And so Crystal said, those videos of people trying to drink 7 Up without belching crack me up. And that's the thing. There's so much carbonation in all of these things. I don't know how you're not burping your way through all of that. So
you're adding in the lemon lime and
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And so that combination.
I can't get the picture of the bigger bubbles of Dr. Pepper out of my head
now. Now you're stuck on that.
I feel them.
Like now you're going to study. You're going to do a little scientific study where you're going to pour them all out and figure it all out. So, and then the final big guy, well, I don't really call it a big guy, but it was kind of one that was up pretty high, but is RC. Do you remember Royal Crown Cola? Do you remember Knee High? That was the same general company, also under Keurig Dr. Pepper. They just kind of snapped up all of those. Knee High was one of the earlier fruit flavored soda drinks. So they had lemon soda. That's all right. They had lemon soda. They had strawberry soda. They had all the different fruits in soda form. And so Knee High, grape Knee High was, I think, what Radar O'Reilly used to drink on MASH. So let's just push that. Yeah, let's just push that in with the TV portion of things, right?
MASH
so
is coming up.
I know of all the things that I could bring up, and
an A, an S, and an H.
Exactly. And so now they were actually known for a lot of firsts that a lot of people don't realize. So not a Charles, but his name was Claude. Claude Hatcher in 1905 made a ginger ale and called it Royal Crown. And from there he did a whole bunch of other flavors, very similar to Canada Dry. It has a whole lot of flavors, that kind of Shasta, those kind of groups that have a lot of things. So he along with the guy that owned Pepsi for a while, they were mad at Coca-Cola. They felt like they were pricing the syrup too high. So they're like, screw you, I'll make my own. And so a guy actually bought Pepsi was temporarily bought by a store owner, and then it built into what it built into. But then RC did the same thing, but hung in there. And RC was really popular in the South. A lot of times, your lunch when you were working in the South was RC and a moon pie. And when you eat the two together, there's just something about it because RC is like a lighter flavor, a little bit less of the carbonation. And so that particular mix was very tasty.
Yeah,
Have you ever had an RC in it? And maybe I just come from southern Missouri stock. Grew up in Kansas City, but
you know what?
Yeah.
I remember
Do you?
I remember visiting like the Louisiana area.
Okay, so you had family that direction.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
some
yeah.
friends and stuff. And I remember that was the thing in the fridge,
RC Cola, yeah, and we had it for a while. And the thing is when you were kind of broke or unemployed back in the 70s, yeah, it was a lot cheaper. And so when I was broke and college student, yeah, I bought RC instead. So RC, yeah, and they were one of the earliest ones to have cherry cola, not just the kind that you make at a soda fountain, but actual packaged cherry cola. In 1954, they were the first canned soda. And they were also, I don't know the year, but they were the first aluminum can soda. In 1954, they were one of the earliest to do uh, sugar-free soda. So Diet Right came out in 1954, and they were only second to a brand not many people have heard of, called No-Cal. No-Cal was invented specifically for diabetics, from people in hospitals and stuff. And so Diet Right was the first one that was really openly sold on the market. So
It's so wrong that they could have a whole market of diabetics to go for.
yeah,
It's so
but that's what it built
Oh
from,
my
and
God.
then it built into, if you're trying to reduce. Yes, back then it wasn't called lose weight; it was called when you're trying to reduce. You know that if you watched Mad Men, but
You need to reduce yourself.
yes, I'm reducing. Is
That
what?
sounds
Yeah,
really
that's what you
harsh.
said. Yeah, right. And so Steven says if you eat a Twix and drink a Pepsi, it will taste like a 7-Up. I've never tried it, but I'm sure there will come a time
A
when I
Twix
will
and
want
a
to do.
Pepsi? That
Twix.
sounds not right. That doesn't sound
I,
like
I,
it.
I don't know. I
I'm
think
gonna try it. But
maybe
yeah.
it's worth a shot. I don't know. So they
Sounds
were
awesome,
also one of the first ones to do caffeine free options. So they had something in 1980 called RC 100, and it was sugar free and caffeine free. So it's a pretty big deal. And of course, Pepsi had Pepsi free. I definitely drank quite a bit of that because the caffeine free. So then I could get all the sugar buzz, all the diabetic problems, but then none of the I'm staying awake all night. So
Well, caffeine does
so
the opposite for me.
and so with
all
that
night.
dovetails into all the different ingredients that you find in a soda. Originally, like I mentioned before, you'd had cane sugar. Now, for a little while, Coca-Cola was made with beet sugar during the war because cane sugar was harder to come by because of how you have to import it. Yeah,
I know what that tasted like.
a beet sugar? I don't know. Well, okay, there might be a way we
There
can
was
find them.
different.
There might be a way. Yes.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, there was a major difference. Right?
Yep. And then and then Dave said,
Storage.
hopefully you recycled the RC bottles for 5 cents. So that is another thing that we talk about quite a bit, is how it was packaged. So it was packaged in glass bottles. Those glass bottles you would turn into the grocery store. For us, it was Thriftway, me and Pamela. And so you would turn those in and you would get a credit back. And you could either take it as cash or you could take that credit and buy more soda with it. And what they did with those soda bottles is they would take them back to the company. They would take them back to the bottler, and the bottlers would sanitize them and wash them and use them again. And they would just get reused.
That sounds
Yeah,
like a
it was
perfect system.
such
Let's
a
go back
reduce,
to that,
reuse, recycle. It was a very real thing.
Our
Absolutely
RC
was.
colas and
Mhm.
our bottles
So-
of milk on the porch.
And except for that, I do have an RC bottle in my collection. If you saw the pictures, yes, there's an RC bottle in there. So that one I didn't turn in. Sorry, everyone. Yep. So, and there were lots of other things. And so, like I said, over time, somewhere in the, I don't know, 60s, 70s was high fructose corn syrup. They switched it out. And now pretty much all of the sodas have that. When you have a throwback Pepsi, those have cane sugar in them. When you have a throwback Mountain Dew, those have actual cane sugar in them. Chris,
Like raising kids in the last decade or so, high fructose corn syrup
Oh,
is
yeah.
like the devil's word.
It is.
If it has
It is.
in it, it's like
It made
kids
soda.
away
Yeah,
from-
and it made soda
don't go
even.
get it.
It made soda even worse for you. Even
Yeah,
worse.
yeah.
So lots of other bad things in there too, like caramel color, food coloring. And the thing is the origin, drink, taste, flavor comes from root beer, cola nut, fruits, and so people would actually put all of these extracts into the drink so that it would taste good, but then they'd pack it with sugar, caramel color, all those things. Dave says backwash. No, I'm pretty sure I washed my RC bottle out pretty good, but I'll double check just to make sure that there's
always
not.
there. If you're drinking somebody else's soda, it's there, people. Okay?
Yep.
Somewhere in there.
And then Crystal's brother would go take them from the back of the store and return them to get money for candy. I love it. Yeah, that's exactly what would happen. So, and then of course, over time, the sugar substitutes. I'm just going to rattle them off. Cyclamate, which is now banned. Saccharin, sweet and low, which is considered to be a cancer causer. Aspartame, which is called NutraSweet. Stevia is one of the newest ones that we have because it's directly from the stevia plant. Sucralose is Splenda. Ace K is Equal. And so all of those at some point or another have been part of those diet beverages. And it's a lot of chemicals we stick in our bodies. And then, of course, from that point, once sodas got popular and people wanted different things, the soda companies started selling us water, tea, and milk. And so all of a sudden, they're selling all the beverages to us because they want our dollars. They want so many of our dollars. And then, of course, what Crystal mentioned, I mentioned the carbonation levels. Some were more carbonated, some were less. Shasta had less carbonation. RC had less carbonation. Coca-Cola, I think, is second to Pepsi on carbonation, but I don't remember the exact one on that.
My bubbles are the biggest in my Dr Pepper. Am I like affecting the planet in a bad way?
I don't think so. I don't think it's
Like
the
too
bubbles
much
popping
CO2 coming out of
themselves.
your
I think
out of
it's
your
the high
can.
fructose corn syrup that's the bigger
Okay.
problem. I
All
really
right.
I really think so. That's just speculation on my part. So, the next section that I wanted to talk
Opinion
about
from doctor. If it
So the next section I want to talk about is advertising. And advertising was in print, on billboards, TV, the jingles. Like I said, I've got an entire YouTube video I'd love for you guys to watch. And so I'm going to rattle off all the Coke sayings. You let me know which ones you know and which ones you don't know. It's the real thing. And of course, many of them were sung. Coke adds life. Things go better with Coke. And if you ever were a hair metal fan, things go better with rock. It came from Things Go Better with Coke.
oh no.
Yeah, that's where it came from. That's it. And
Well,
then, of course, we have the.
they probably had a different meaning for that as well.
Yeah, probably. And so the pause that refreshes. And some of these from, I think, our childhood have a Coke and a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, was
Oh,
that one?
totally.
Okay, gotcha. I'd like to buy the world of Coke. We've already talked about that one. Catch the Wave, and I probably
Oh.
forgot that as well. Darn it, I forgot the book. So Catch the Wave was such a popular one in the 80s that my junior year, the yearbook was named that. That was the theme that we used, and so it had like a little wave on the cover, and it was cool. It was one of the coolest yearbooks I've ever seen. So those of you that made the yearbook
Pop culture.
all those years ago,
Off
oh
the
yeah.
charts.
And it was so 1980s colored, right? It was like this bright white background with like pink and blue and yellow and green, and it just had such a great look to it. So yes, Catch the Wave was a big one. Coke is It. That's a pretty popular one as well. And then into the 90s, we had Always Coca-Cola. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Always Coca-Cola. Yeah. Yeah. So indeed, exactly. And then of
We did
course
not
right
practice
around
for
not
this.
at all, not at all.
It would
And
have been harmonizing if there was practice.
probably, yeah. So then they also did Holidays Are Coming. So Coca-Cola really pushes into that holiday season. So holidays are coming. Holidays are coming, and it's
Yeah.
the trucks, the Coca-Cola trucks coming into town.
Cold and
So
snowy and polar
yeah,
bears
and so that was a pretty big one. Now
they
people
even
kind of
have Santa, I think.
they
They have a
do.
walk on Santa.
They do, but unfortunately, these last couple of years they did super heavy AI, and it was a bit uncanny valley to me. It was a bit much for me. But yeah, I kind of. But we did go back and look at the polar bears.
Mhm.
That art's kind of scary.
Yeah,
kind of.
that
It
was
wasn't that.
really
It was.
blotchy.
It was a little
It was
creepy.
like Super Mario N64.
Yeah,
you know,
it
like
was. It was a
blotchy.
little. I wasn't ready for how far we've come in this amount of time. So Pepsi also had a ton of slogans. Come alive, nickel nickel. So which was what, like I said, you're buying it for a nickel, but you're getting so much more. The joy of Pepsi. The Pepsi Challenge, which we also mentioned. I also mentioned more bounce to the ounce. So anybody that uses that to rhyme in one of their songs, there's more bounce to the ounce. Catch that Pepsi spirit. Drink it in,
Wait,
drink
so
it
More
in,
Bounce
drink
the
it
Ounce
in. Was Pepsi.
originated there. And
Yeah.
then all that came. Oh, wow.
Everything that came from that came from Pepsi. And of
Ooh,
course,
that is a
you
sick
are
sample.
you are the choice of a new generation. Yep.
Yes, I am.
Yep. So
Yes, I am.
Pam says love the beard. Good job.
The what?
The beard. Love the beard.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Very
trimmed.
cool. Good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, and then of course Ray Charles did Diet Pepsi. Do you remember that? You got the right one, baby. Yeah, so that was a pretty good one too. And then of course gotta have it. And the most recent one was Is Pepsi okay? And of course Cardi B is like, Is Pepsi okay? She would do her little occur thing, yeah. And then what's
Oh
funny
my
is that
God.
no, and then
Oh, I really
Steve.
didn't like that back then.
Really? Okay. And so Steve Carell was in the commercial too, and he's like, "Is Pepsi okay?" It's more than okay because
It's
there's
like
always
Pollo
that.
Loco. After a while, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I get it, and that's the thing is
Yeah, I
people are
can't do
so
it.
used to is Pepsi
How
okay
do you
because
get-
people it's just a rolled R. I don't know. I don't know why you
I'll
can't
never
and I
get there.
can. I guess
I
not.
hate it.
So some other slogans for other drinks: Obey your thirst. Do you know which one that one is?
Yo, I did right until you asked me.
Yeah, Sprite. That was Sprite.
Sprite.
And of course, we've already talked about being a pepper. And what was Seven Up called? It was called the Uncola.
That's
And then, of course, RC had a song, "Me and My RC." And then, of course, Mountain Dew had "Do It to It" and "Do the Do."
of course.
Yeah. So okay, I think it's time for a T-shirt change. So yeah, I really do have 5 of these T-shirts. So bye, Cool Spot. You were cool. And so here we go to the
So
next
this
one.
is number 4 then.
Yes, and we're back to talking about I'm a pepper. Look at that.
Mhm.
It's Dr.
I kind of want to go
Pepper's.
grab another one right
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and would you also grab me a real sugar Pepsi?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll show that off too. And so then advertising, placement, and sponsorships. Look at all the different sports that we've had: NASCAR, Olympics, NFL, MLB, all of them. Colleges. One of my favorite college memories is Coca Cola had like share a Coke with. And you could share a Coke with, and it had the person's name on it. And so sometimes it was Jill. So when I found Jillian's name, of course I had to get it, Julia. And people with very difficult names had a hard time finding those. And so you could even order your name to be able to find it. So
I'm switching to Pepsi because I'm
oh,
still
very
worried
nice.
about
All right,
those
so
big
let's
bubbles.
let's show him. Yeah, so now he's all freaked out about the big bubbles of Dr Pepper.
Pepsi's a little
So
bit
we're on to
better.
Pepsi, and of course, as you can see, this is the
I'm not
the
ready.
new.
This is fun.
It's the new logo.
Yeah.
So, so and we've already talked about
But show the
about the ads. We will in just a moment. So now Pepsi was very heavy on the spokespeople. I'm going to rattle off some spokespeople. Are you ready? Here we go. Joan Crawford, yeah, from way back in the day. Her husband owned Pepsi. She owned Pepsi for a while, so that was a big reason why. Britney Spears, Janet Jackson, Michael J. Fox, the Spice Girls, Beyonce, Pink, J-Lo, Hallie Eisenberg, that cute little Pepsi girl that would do all the weird voices. Yep, her. Aretha Franklin, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Christina Aguilera sold Coke for a minute, came over to Pepsi. Madonna, that was a big thing.
Betrayal.
Yeah, and Madonna was going to do that. Was going to do the have her tour sponsored by Pepsi, but then she came out with Like a Prayer. Too much religious imagery. They got upset and they said, "Nope, not going to do it."
Who did then?
Nobody. They pulled their support from the tour, and she had to do it on her own. It didn't. It didn't. She kept going. So, and then Steven says, true. Steven says, did you ever get into the Coke and Peanuts trend or the Pepsi and Peanuts trend? No, because I was told the Dr. Pepper and Peanuts trend was the thing. You drop some peanuts into it, and it gives it a different flavor. No,
Okay.
nothing.
No,
It's.
that's
I
cool.
think that's a
I'm gonna
southern
buy
thing too.
peanuts.
That's kind of a
Check
southern
it
thing
out.
too. Yeah, and it's like
Are
you
they
drop
the
the.
salted peanuts?
No, it's just like the little shelled peanut, and you just kind of drop them in there. I think
In the
there's. I think
shell?
they're salt. No, not in the shell.
Oh.
Pull the shell. Yeah.
I'm so stupid right now about this.
I'm here to teach
I
you.
need you to
This is
pick it out
This
of the
is
shell
this
and
is
place it.
educational. We're trying to help here. So, and Dave says,
I'm down for whatever. That sounds like fun.
Dave says,
Party.
Dave says, lots of wardrobe changes. No malfunction, please. Is Shasta next? And so I definitely have mentioned Shasta a couple of times. The fun thing about Shasta, and the fun thing I discovered about when I put those videos together in a hurry, a lot of soda is sold by people in bathing suits. I'm not sure why, but apparently that's how that goes. So Shasta, what is that? I wanna pop, I wanna Shasta. And so I've got a couple of those commercials with that. So, and of course, Ernie wants to be a pepper too. And Ernie said Coke and salted peanuts were definitely a thing. So his was Coke and salted peanuts. Mine was
Coke and
Dr. Pepper.
Salted peanuts make sense to me. That's almost
Yeah.
like an ice cream flavor.
Yeah, and I've had it.
Should be,
I've
right?
definitely yeah. Oh yeah, and I've had it. I've had it
Ben and
before. I
Jerry.
enjoyed it. So I'm surprised they haven't done that.
Coca-Cola and
For
peanuts.
sure.
Like if that's
For sure.
a thing, like
So,
a hard thing.
All right, so now get ready. I'm going to rattle off a lot of these other indies that also deserve at least a mention. Arizona Tea is still owned by the same guys, and still, I hope they're still 99 cents because that was a big deal. Jones Soda with very unusual flavors, so they're a fun one to be able to do that.
Cool art on there too.
Oh, right. And Steven said, I introduced my Japanese wife to the peanut trick recently. She said, that's weird. So it's not for everyone, I guess. So, and then
That's supposed to happen though. It's probably
exactly,
a 50-50.
exactly.
Some people that's
And
weird.
and so some of the more local ones, my favorite root beer, Frosty, Steven's favorite root beer, Dad's, Fitz's. Now there's not very many cream sodas that aren't like A&W has a cream soda, like there's certain other ones, but Big Red cream soda was really big in the South, particularly in Texas. Spreckers, Moxie. The word Moxie, people know the word Moxie, but it is a soda. And the soda Moxie was what gave people, because it's kind of sassy, right? And so when you're sassy, you're said that you've got Moxie, right? Oh no, your answer. Okay, remember we were talking about chocolate Shasta.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I want to try that. Well, Dave can verify chocolate Shasta
You know what, though,
was
Ben?
nasty.
I really appreciate the verification, but you know I'm gonna have to try it anyway.
If it still exists, do we? I haven't figured
It's
out
like,
if
"Ooh,
Shasta.
here, taste this."
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I'm
Shasta
in.
even exists. So, and then of course, but Moxie is the beverage of Maine, the official beverage of Maine, because it was made in the state of Maine. And so, yeah, yep. So,
So that was the first time the word was used like that?
yeah, it got taken because you have Moxie. Like it's
How
like
does the
saying you've
power
got
of pop
Pepsi or
culture
whatever in you.
get me?
it's pretty cool. And so Jolt came out in 1985, heavy caffeine. I felt like you could taste the caffeine. I know
Oh,
caffeine probably
Jolt.
doesn't have a taste, but it would like leave a film on your teeth.
Is like the slurb on The Simpsons or whatever.
Oh, Slurm from Futurama. Yeah, I think
That's
you're
what
right.
Jolt was like to
Slurm.
me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I have some Slurm game cans. They don't have Slurm in them, my friends.
But if
But
Slurm made a soda, it would be like
it would
Jolt.
be like Jolt,
Totally.
100%. And then Crystal mentioned sarsaparilla. Sarsaparilla was one of the flavorings in root beer, and then IBC had sarsaparilla as well. And Ernie brings up Cheerwine, big in North Carolina and the East Coast. Yep. And then Dave, Cheerwine. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was very sweet and dark.
Like you
I
made
remember
it
that.
yourself, or you
No,
bought-
Cheerwine was the brand.
Oh, a brand.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
yep. So
Oh, yeah,
and then
cheer. I'd buy
yeah,
it.
and then Crystal's go-to in high school was Surge. So of course that had a
So
lot of
another
extra.
Slurm kind
It did. I think Slurm was based on Surge. I really
Yeah,
do.
these are
I think
like-
so.
yeah.
Yeah. So and
These
then
are like alien-looking
Dave-
drinks with
Dave
wood
Dave
glass.
threw up Dad's root beer out his dad's window. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. But Surge definitely came after. Jolt was kind of the big one that really cranked up the caffeine. Surge followed in its footsteps. They certainly were. So, and then I've got to mention, at least for a second, Faygo, Red Pop. I know the Juggalos really love it, but I never did.
You know,
One of
that's
my
the first time
aunts.
I knew what that was watching a Juggalo documentary. I'd
Really,
never heard of that
really. No, I tried some at one of the family reunions. One of my aunts brought it, and gross. It was
Because
really
it's
gross.
supposed to be sprayed in your face.
Apparently,
It's
and not drank. No, I didn't know that in 1984, but we figured it out later.
It's how
So.
people stay cool with
Exactly,
Juggalo.
exactly. And so enjoy the ad grouping that I did. I've got things for Pepsi Light, which is Pepsi with lemon, Pepsi Twist, which also has Pepsi with lemon, Crystal Pepsi, which of course is Pepsi in a clear. Yeah, it was very strange. And of course, they use Van Halen right now for that. That's another side one. And then there's plenty of other things like Pepsi 10 or Dr. Pepper 10, Dr. Pepper Zero, Twist, all of those, and the throwback designs. So this is the one I'm going to kind of break diet just a little bit. As you can see, it's got the old Pepsi logo, but it is, they call it Soda Shop, and it is a real sugar Coke. It actually says it on the bottom. So I am going to crack a toe out here. And then let's see, you're having a Pepsi. So, okay, you want to drink your Pepsi from a Pepsi glass or a Coke glass?
Oh God, you have to have the Pepsi glass because that's like the
Okay.
original formula.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna see if I can pour this and not have it just completely overflow on me. But here we go. And I probably won't drink the whole thing. I'll probably just let Evan drink
I'm
the
only
rest of
doing it
this
for the
because,
sound, really.
well, exactly, and it's pretty awesome. And so, as you can see, I had a huge bottle and can collection. I know we're running a little bit long, but I still have just a couple other things to do. So this was the first. This was the first bottle that I ever collected. It's a Vest bottle. And as you can see, it's pretty sizable. Vest was a soda company based out of St. Louis. This actually is a family size. It's a bit bigger than your standard. What is it? 24 fluid ounces. And it has a really cool design on it. This was originally what my Aunt Mary used to use when she was ironing. And you know, you have to have a bottle to kind of put some water whenever you're trying to steam and press things, and you kind of have to sprinkle a bit of water on it. This was her water sprinkler. I still have the sprinkler that she put on the top of it, but this is what she used. And I loved it so much. And so whenever they downsized, I got the bottle, and it's been with me ever since. And so both she and Ivan, long since gone, passed on, and it's a treasure to me. So pretty good, pretty darn cool. So oh
great.
yes,
Like-
and Steven mentioned. Did we mention Mountain Dew? Hang on, let me scroll just a bit because we are definitely
You
getting.
would have been so angry.
Yes, so Pepsi. Oh, and Dave said Pepsi out of a Coke glass, perfect. And Crystal, of course, liked Crystal Pepsi. That's
I
perfect.
promise you, though, like
Yep.
the minute I poured it, and even this, it just tasted better. That very next drink.
Oh, yeah, and
tasted better.
Crystal-
It airs like wine.
Yeah, and Crystal loved Mountain Dew Code Red. Was also a high school go-to. Steven loved that as well.
Oh,
So
Mountain
and
Dew
of
is the
course,
whole
yes,
thing. Yeah.
absolutely. And then Tab was Coca-Cola's answer to diet drinks. It tasted absolutely terrible. It was filled with saccharin and had that pink case or pink design on it. So yes, and I hated Tab. Yeah, not a fan. And then they also had little
Like
cups.
medicine.
You know how these cups kind of have their little switcheroonies? Like this is a very Coca-Cola shaped cup. Tab had one that went in the middle, like it makes your waist go in. So yeah, that was definitely one. So and Dave is admiring you for drinking Pepsi out of a Coke glass.
Thanks.
Yes. So
I mean,
and then
when
Stephen.
in Rome, you
That's
know,
that's
I'm a
true.
survivor.
That's true. So Stephen mentioned Stephen mentioned, did we mention Mountain Dew and Mellow Yellow? We haven't gotten there yet. So Mountain Dew came out a good bit later in the 40s and 50s, into the 50s. And into the 60s. And so it started out in Tennessee. And so originally it had a very hillbilly sales pitch to it.
Love it.
It'll tickle your innards. So yes, I did include that on the video package as well. And Mellow Yellow was Coca-Cola's answer to Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew was under the Pepsi umbrella, and then Mellow Yellow. And I tried them both. I enjoyed them both. Now, the other one that we don't want to forget is Sun Drop. It is also very similar to Mountain Dew, and it had the Sun Drop girl. She'd drink it and she'd start like moving her booty. And so yeah, so I included that in the videos. We're definitely going to have to watch that.
Drink?
Yes. Yes, I'll show you. Yeah, I'll show you. And then there was a oh no. And then there was a Sun Drop dude, and they met each other. It was very cute. It was a meet cute. Yes, it was. And so so Steven said, I remember when you could buy 50-cent Mellow Yellow from the big ice coolers at all the gas stations. Yep, they had it at a good price. Ernie said, remember Tab, or just the workout girls in swimsuits crafting a Tab? So like I said, swimsuits were everywhere when people were selling soda.
Tab was like a diet drink.
Yep. Dave agrees with the vest. Ernie says vest grape was the best. Dave said good for adding water to car batteries. I don't remember that.
What is the bottle?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the bottle.
Like
no, that's because it's got the longer neck. Oh, that makes all the sense. Well done. Well done. Clive said
DIY video out on
I'd like to see that. Clive says there's one called Canada something. Canada Dry, I think, maybe? Or clearly Canadian. And tastes really good, like more Mountain Dew. So very nice. Ernie said ginger ale cured all the tummy aches and whiskey mixer. Nice. Dave mentioned Sunkist. Now, Sunkist was interestingly also under Keurig Dr. Pepper, but they also have Orange Crush. Oh, hang on. I have one more shirt to go. And this is the final shirt. And no, I'm not taking. I'm not taking.
Right now, you're okay.
I'm not taking the final shirt off, because this is the final shirt.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So yes, we are going to talk about Sunkist and Crush. Knee High also had an orange Knee High as well. So now. They kind of, well, it helps me that people are bringing them up. So, and of course, the containers. Like I said, originally Hires did little mix packets. And then, of course, we had them, you could buy it at the fountain. You had the different glass shapes. You had the deposit and return, which we talked about. In 1923, it is said that Asa Candler of Coca-Cola created the 6-pack. Why would you bring it home in 6? So there are a lot of different reasons for that. And then Dave said, no wardrobe malfunctions. Yes, you're absolutely right on that one. And so, and then, of course, we had bottle tabs. So it's kind of misogynistic. They said that 6 was the amount that a housewife could carry home for her husband to drink.
Whoa.
That's only what I heard. It's not official.
That's a deep, dark industry secret
yeah.
right there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's how that went, but I always thought of it as like if there's like 3 of you, you could each have 2. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
that's probably not what they were thinking of.
Probably not. Probably not. So Ernie, yes. So Ernie said peach Knee High if you're a Boy Scout. And Dave said REM Orange Crush. Yes. So now I'm singing that in my head. Crystal said they sued the Broncos in the late 70s for using Orange Crush for the name of the defense, even though they sold the heck out of the soda. They did. I just put like when I was a kid, they called Denver Broncos defense Orange Crush. And I swear, like all my friends that like the Denver Broncos drank Orange Crush almost for that reason. So, of course, big fan as well. Yeah, they did. So, yeah, I think they settled out of court. That'd be my guess. And then, of course, as years went on, you went from glass into cans, aluminums and minis and talls. And then the plastic came along, 2 liters. Do you remember the 3 liters that you could get? They were giant. Like, you kind of had to hold them with both hands. Did you ever see a 3 liter? Yeah, welcome to the Midwest where we eat and drink a lot. A lot. Yeah, it's so, yeah, oh, yeah, and they could do that. Ernie says I need better friends because they're Broncos. I am a Chiefs fan. Thank you very much. And I have a very loyal best friend who just happens to be a Broncos fan. It's fine. It's fine. There's one thing that we're allowed to disagree on, and that is the one thing that we're allowed to disagree on. So, so as you can tell, the Kansas City fans are quite rabid. Anyway, but that's a whole other topic for a whole other story. Now, that wraps up everything that I had on here. So you've waited so long. I went about 10 minutes longer than I had planned on going. And then Clive says, I think you are correct, but it was clearly Canadian. Turns out it's technically sparkling water and would recommend it. Yes, clearly Canadian was a very like late 80s, early 90s things. Crystal's calling it out. Rude. So as I said, I promised you we're running late, but I am so glad. I had to keep going because you guys are really keeping the conversation going. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This was a lot of fun. If you can't
Super
tell,
fun.
I absolutely love soda myself. So next week, guess what it's going to be? Celebrity crushes, just in time for Valentine's Day. So start thinking of all of your favorite celebrity crushes. What was yours? Alyssa Milano, right? Was that the one?
Like,
Was
oh
that
yeah.
your crush? Okay, because we were talking about that. And then
Alyssa Milano.
mine now. My big crush from all the time way back when I was 11 was Rick Springfield, and I'd like to be very proud of myself that I picked one that is still very good looking even into his 70s, which is a shocker, and making fantastic music. So the final things that I've got to do, make sure that I show off my puzzles. Of course, I've got a Mountain Dew puzzle. I've got a Coca-Cola puzzle because I also like puzzling. And probably my favorite puzzle is the Pepsi puzzle right there. So big fan. I think that I managed to remember to show. I think, oh yes, the 1980s. One of my 1980s cans. I wanted to kind of show off as well with the logo. So thank you once again. I suppose we should do a toast. Here we go
Oh, I have left. Yeah.
to soda. I'm gonna have my one sip of soda, even though I'm on my diet.
Oh, with pinkies. Sorry, right?
That's very good. That's very good. All right, so
I'm just kidding.
yes, yeah, the burping. How many bubbles were in that? So Steven said, "Hot damn, I'm looking forward to that one." And yes, she was my crush too, Alyssa Milano all the way. Crystal said Julie was
Why
a.
I
Oh,
bought those magazines.
Crystal is
Teen
yes, and
magazines.
Crystal is outing me, and she's my best friend. She's totally allowed to out me. I was a fan of the Broncos for a minute when I was younger. I was so for one. There was a season I was so mad at the Chiefs, and I was being rebellious. And so I was a fan of the Broncos, and so I had a cute little Bronco doll and all of those kind of things. I came back around; it was fine. It was a phase, probably. But yes, Crystal is totally allowed to out me for having 1 year as a fan of the
One of my other
Broncos.
first crushes though was Natalie Wood. And
Oh,
she
Natalie
wasn't
one.
even,
She is quite beautiful.
wasn't even
So,
around.
so Dave Grinder says, "Can we talk breakup songs?" That one is actually going to be its own separate one. Although we can kind of weave it in, as you can tell, a lot of different pop cultures things that I talk about weave in and out. So, but we'll definitely be covering that. Like I said, my entire page is now just going to be a conglomeration. I'm going to talk about uh, topics from weeks ago. I'm going to keep talking about this topic. We'll talk about the new topics. We'll talk about all of it. And so, thank you very much, Evan, for joining me.
Did we get
Thank you.
sugar vamped in this whole thing? Is like
No,
happening?
I just got excited talking about
Oh
soda. That's
my
kind of
god.
what I do. I
This
mean, I
was
have
amazingly
5 soda
fun. You
shirts.
guys agree? You
Yes.
both agree this was
I hope
super
so.
fun.
I hope so. So
Thank you.
thank you for being part of the
Bye.
conversation, you guys. I appreciate it so greatly. Crystal's laughing all the way. So thanks again, guys. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the video. Normally I try not to let it go an hour, but it went almost an hour. So, but enjoy. Those of you that see it later, feel free to chime in and have fun as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep drinking my soda and enjoying it before my diet comes back.